So this evening I want to talk about this little area and Kathy's arbour seat. A little bit more about that and a little bit why I came about it and why I came about designing it and doing it the way I did it. Now originally that was going to be a swing in that section, and the seat that you can see inside, which is just sat on a plant pot at the moment, is the seat section. And originally I was going to put it onto a section like this, and this is the Flintstones arbour. So if you imagine it hanging down there, but up in that section there, that's originally what I was going to do. But Kathy wasn't bothered about it being up there anymore, so I left it for I've left it for the last 2 years thinking about it, and finally came up with the idea of this seated arbour for her. And the seated arbour is lovely. Spent the last week and a half building it. It's not completely finished yet. I've still got the roof section on top to finish, and I've still got, as I said, that seat to put in. So yeah, it was a present for her. Now I didn't want this to look boring, and I wanted it to sit in its environment a bit better. And the one way to do that more effectively is to actually get some planting around it, and that's just what I've done. Now that Mahonia japonica was already in the garden, and I've done a little bit of pruning and cutting it, and it still wants to grow from the base, which is what Mahonias do. I've decided I'm going to let it become that big shrub again because it will suit it better. But what I wanted was this to have a secluded feel, and I think I've given it just that. So part of that is the planting, and how I've gone about the planting. Now remember, when I'm building my sections, I've always got the future in mind. So I'm always thinking, oh, what can I do? What can I do in that area, and what will it look like in the future? And that's one reason that I actually planted the bamboo originally there, was with that thought in mind. So I've been working in this border for some time, and I've never really been happy with it. It's always caused me a bit of a problem, because originally it was under the shade of that Mahonia, and that Mahonia was a lot wider spreading originally, and I had to do something about that and chop it back in, as you can see, and it's now starting to look a bit better as a result of it. So like I say, it's part of the scene now, and it's given me opportunities. Now one of the difficulties is that, again, this is on a bit of a slant, as you can see. Now up to the gateway that you can see in the background, that's a good probably 6 foot higher than where I'm stood at the moment, so it's quite a drop. And that little section that I built there with the modern day railway sleepers was part of the original idea, to put the swing on there, and I had to level it out, and you can see how unlevel it is. That's looking really nice now. Now when I did that originally, I wanted even that to just look a little bit more than what it was, or a little bit more than what it was intended to be. So with that thought in mind, I actually put these scaffold boards on top of it as a seat, so I can sit on this. I will do that just now. So I can sit on it. It's quite comfortable. But what I also wanted was the actual sleepers not to look boring. So I put these fins in, and these are just simple, what are they, 3" by 1.5" bits of wood, and they're just simply pinned to the actual sleepers themselves. They're not really holding it back either. The main sections are actually in that corner, and further along I've put some quite big pins in to hold it, and they're just 4x4s knocked into the ground. Then I've screwed them into it, screwed the sleepers into it. So I always wanted it to look a little bit more than it was. Now this is an Acer that I got the other day, and I'm so pleased I got this. A good friend of mine in Caister, which isn't a million miles from where I live, Steve, he actually let me have this. Well, he didn't let me have it. I've had to pay a lot of money for this one, but it's well worth it. And I believe it to be, I know it's Acer palmatum and dissectum, and I think it's garnet. I'm not sure. He didn't have a label with it, as usual. Steve's lost his labels. So it didn't really have a label. Now I've been investigating it, and I think it is that. I could be wrong. Some Acer expert out there might tell me I'm completely wrong, and it's something else. And hopefully something else worth twice the money I paid for it, because it wasn't cheap. But anyway, it's got this lovely shape about it, and this is why I selected this. He had some that were a lot bigger than this, and a lot, well, to most people, a nicer shape. But I wanted this one. I like these trees that fall over and sideways and have weird shapes. So I went for that one. So because I've got sandstone just sat around, I had them sat around again in a pile, I decided we would use that as part of the scene. And I'm hoping to be able to get one of those Chinese tea light houses that you see all over, like a pagoda-like little thing. And I'm going to go for a squat one to sit in that corner or near to that corner, because I just think it'll add a little bit more than what it is at the moment. And that all add to the effect. This side, as you know, I move this shrub here. There's the Cuba japonica crotonifolia, and it's looking a lot better now, a lot happier actually already. It was going to come back good anyway, where I'd got it originally, but I wanted it to look better than it was, and I thought this would suit it better because it's not going to get any direct sunlight here because it's shaded by the hedge itself, so that's going to be really nice. And I've put more stones there, as you can see. They're looking good. Now, there's a hosta there, and that's Hosta Saga, and that's quite a big hosta. It can get to be quite a big hosta. And if you remember, originally there used to be a cow drinker in that section, and I had hostas in the top of it, and that one was set outside of it, just as a bit of interest. And it's managing to keep going, and the slugs are not really getting it, not properly anyway, not as much as I'd expected them to. Leaving it alone at the minute. That could well change. So it's looking really nice, and I'm planting up in earnest with it as much as I can at the moment, as much as I can get in. And I've always been really happy with this border anyway. And as I said before, this border actually, where the Acer is, that's an Acer aconitifolium. Where that is to the left of that, we have sunshine on it all day, and to the right of it, we're in shade for part of the day. But we always get some sort of sun in this area anyway. So I've always been fairly happy, but there's always changes you can make. But looking at it at the moment, quite happy with it, happy to let it go, let some of the plants mature. So that should all mature nicely. I've got a new Nandina domestica in there. It's not firepower, I'm trying to think which one it is. Can't remember, but it's not firepower. It is a beautiful one. Now, will we change it as we go along this planting? I don't know. I honestly don't know. I always say I won't, but then I do. We've got some more Metatuca strophiopteris. I managed to get hold of a couple of plants, big tall ones, actually from out of someone's garden who'd moved away, left them, so I decided, well, let's give them a new home. They do form colonies anyway, and I'd already got 3 or 4 in here. Smaller ones, as you can see, but I just wanted to move the show on a little bit. So hopefully over time they will come down here and through there, hopefully over time, but that will take some time. But generally, it's looking really nice. And continues to look nice. Now, these steps originally, I was going to let go of these. I was going to take them up because, as I said, I'm going to be opening this garden, and I've got a couple of visits from some garden clubs this year. In fact, one this month and one next month, just as testers again. See whether it's see how it's taken, see if people like it or not. And hopefully they will. So I was going to take them away because of the safety aspect of it, but I've got a fresh idea I'm going to do with these. Just hopefully it'll work, just to make it look and feel safer. It won't change much itself. It's just a little bit. I'm not going to tell you what it is yet, just in case it goes wrong and looks stupid. But I'm gonna add something to it. So I've left those steps because they just look good. It's a natural progression up onto that path there that goes right up the garden and out, and then a natural progression to be able to come back down and into the garden, and also up to the seated arbour, to Kathy's seated arbour. And it's quite nice. It's nice to walk on as well. I think I've got it right this time. I think it's spot on. So there's not a lot more hard landscaping I'm going to be doing here now. It's all about, will it mature nicely? Will it get going a little bit better with the planting? Once the planting gets going, it should be a lot better. Now this needs a little bit of attention in here. I need to put some sort of plant in there. I had thought of Strantia. I'm looking for shady plants. I don't need any advice from yourselves because, as you know, I do know my stuff. Just been giving it a lot of thought as to what I can put in there. The bamboo's doing lovely. It's absolutely romping away now. As I said, it's a clumper. It'll never get out of its clump. It will make a big clump year on year, but it's already adding something real special to this area. Then we've got Viburnum's David Eye, and as we've discussed before, these will be seed raised David Eye, so they tend to be a little bit taller than the ones that I am used to, but hopefully not too tall. And they'll be nice. We've gone for shade lovers, and we've gone for, well, it's quite a dry bit of the garden, to be quite honest with you. And I've put this hydrangea here, and this is a quirky folia type called Burgundy. And it's done all right. I'm quite surprised how well it's done. So it must be retaining the moisture quite well. And you can see there's already red tinges there, and they will turn quite burgundy as even before we get into autumn. And that should make about 6 foot, so that's going to look really nice. There's Miscanthus giganteus. That hopefully over time will do its thing. I doubted whether it would get going properly in here because of the dryness, and it would prefer a little bit more damp in the soil, that one. So obviously it is holding a bit of moisture. Now I planted a Fatsia polycarpa called Green Fingers, and this is it, and it's a bit pathetic to when I last showed you it. I've moved it since I last showed you it on film because it really didn't like that winter we had. It'll go down to -10 to be quite honest with you, but it didn't like it. So I decided it'll go there. And I think it's going to look really good there. It'll really like those conditions that are under there. And actually, while we're here, let's show you my other Fatsia japonica while we're here. And this is, I bought it as a more mature specimen, and people tend to keep them short like this, but actually they make lovely, taller, sort of columnar type shrubs, I guess, really. And they look really nice. They can be sprawling, depends where you put them. If you put them in a damper area, they can sprawl a little bit. But this, I think I've got this in just the right area, and I'm really happy with it. I've had nothing to do to it this year. I was hoping to do a little bit of a YouTube on how to look after that, but I can't because there's nothing wrong with it. So while we're here, we'll show you this, what a neighbour of mine, Des, made me. This is a bee, sort of a bee sanctuary, I guess you could call it. And hopefully we'll get lots of bees in there. And above it is a birdhouse, and that has got sparrows in there at the moment. Little babies up there. And so I just thought I'd show you that while we're here. So it's looking great. The big barrel is great. I did roll out the barrel, and it wasn't a barrel of fun because that is so heavy. But it looks great now, and I had toyed with moving that in further into this corner, but I've looked at it several times and think, yep, it's bang on where I've put it. I have got it right. So over time, this can only develop better and better and better. But as you can see at the moment, that looks absolutely superb. I know I'm saying it and I built it, but I just think it looks superb. And I really like it, and it sits in its environment beautifully. And it's got just the look that I like. The planting's really helping with that. Lucky really, because part of it's in shade and part's in sun, so we kind of get a double-edged sword there. I can plant different things. Now some of the plants are maturing a bit better. It is starting to look way better than it was. Now this is Prunus cerasifera, and it's always looked a bit sickly from day one when I got here, and that is because it is getting on. And it has got lots of dead bits in there that I've been chopping out. I've been trying to reinvigorate it, which is starting to work. There are new bits up there that have been growing for the last couple of years. And this is one way of getting it reinvigorated. And then we have little bits like that up there that are not looking so good. They will come out. All the dead looking bits there will come out. I've already took a major limb off this year again, and that was because we was putting in the seated arbour. We needed to do that. So this is the view I'm going to get once the seat's actually in here. This is the view we'll get. Grassy bottom, 1933 Art Deco style bungalow. And it looks great, and I think I've got it right. I might not have. It's not to everybody's taste, I appreciate, but it's definitely to my taste, and hopefully to one or two of your tastes. So I don't think there's a lot else I can say about it. I just wanted to do kind of an in-depth talk about it, about where I'm at the minute, and when I get a few more bits sorted out, and when it matures a little bit more, we'll maybe do another little chat on it. So I think that's a winner. And there's nothing more I can say about it, as I said. I know I'm repeating myself as I do, but I just love it. So there you go. That's the shady area with cafes, arbour seat in there, and a little bit more about how I came about it. So hope you enjoyed that one, and I'll talk to you on the next one. Ta-da!